All right, a good Thursday morning to everybody. It actually feels relatively comfortable across central Texas this morning. We have most areas that have dropped down into the 60s, and that's because we have a very dry air mass that has moved in. Fast forward a couple hours to this afternoon, we're going to see the flip side of what happens when dry air is in place. It cools down easily, so we're nice this morning. It heats up just as easily, so it is going to be scorching hot for this afternoon. Here are the numbers off the national model blend across the state. You can see it's got Austin at 102. I think it's going to be even hotter than that. I officially have 103 in my forecast, and here's a closer look at the numbers for Central Texas. And I said this yesterday, if I had to change it, I would change it up and not down. 103 is the hottest number we have had at any point through 2025, so we could at least tie that mark today. Obviously, if we go above 104 or something like that, then it could be our hottest number so far of 2025. So either way, it's going to be very hot today. At least it will be a dry heat though. Okay, so on to the model blend. Our forecast, it's a relatively eventful one as we go over the next several days. So first up, it's going to be the heat. Again, will be about 103 or so today. Friday is still going to be very hot. Yesterday I was telling you, Saturday still looks like it's just going to be hot. Well, I actually think now it is more likely that this cold front comes through on Saturday and cools us down in time for Saturday afternoon. So highs 80s, maybe low 90s, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, before we start to trend drier and hotter heading into next week. So again, cooler and wetter is going to be the word as early as Saturday. Now, I know we have the UT home opener. I think that Saturday still is looking mainly dry. Here are the numbers just off the model blend, and we'll go through the specifics. But you can see Sunday night, early Monday is probably when our rain chances are the best. This model blend actually brings in more than a half inch of rain for Austin. Still, I'm kind of in the process of deciding, do I think this is going to be a boost in scattered rain chances where many of us get rain but not everybody, or do I think it's going to be more area wide with a more significant flood risk? As of now, Sunday, we've got like a 60% rain chance in the forecast. These are the latest numbers for the rainfall totals off the Weather Prediction Center in-house model. You can see it's got, say, a quarter of an inch or a quarter of an inch to a half inch on average along and east of I-35, and then a half inch to an inch plus over parts of the hill country. This is the flood outlook for Sunday and Sunday night, which again is when we're kind of expecting most of the activity. And they've actually changed this where, kind of in line with some of that new data coming in, they've shifted the level 2 flood risk down towards Uvalde and Del Rio and Eagle Pass. And it doesn't really get to our KVU counties, but basically we've got a level 1 over much of our central Texas area. So again, right now, this looks like mainly like low-end flooding potential in rain that is, fairly widespread, but not where 100% of the area is getting rain. But one of the reasons why I want to watch this especially closely is because of actually some kind of interplay from the tropics, not from the Atlantic, although we do have this area that we'll need to keep an eye on, and still a high chance of development, but actually from the Eastern Pacific, where we have Kiko out over open water, and then Lorena, which is closer to shore. So here's the cone for Lorena. It's a hurricane now. It will weaken down to a tropical storm, then a tropical depression, and then probably like the core of the storm, low-level circulation will fizzle over Baja California into northern Mexico. Now, even though the core kind of fizzles here, we talked about this yesterday, in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, you can have that tropical Pacific moisture which flows over northern Mexico and into Texas. And then at the lower levels, Gulf moisture comes in, and then we also have this front that I just showed you, which is going to be cooling us down. So because we have those three ingredients in play, if everything lines up in a certain way, the potential is definitely there for locally heavy rain and flooding over parts of our area. Again, I don't know that we're quite to that stage yet, but it's just my job as a meteorologist to say, hey, pattern recognition, there's a little alarm bell flashing where there's a world where this comes together to produce not just a rain chance, but heavier rain and flooding. So with that, let's go into the models. And before we talk about flood potential some more, I want to talk about the temperature forecast. If you watched me at 10 on TV last night, you could probably feel me hedging my bets a little bit. And the reason for that is because I saw this high-res data start to come in late in the day. So here's the NAM, the high-res NAM, 3 kilometer, the cold front king. So we're going to be triple digits today. That part's easy. Tomorrow, we are still, I think, going to be, this model has us at 99. Now this front is sped up. Now all of a sudden we've got compressional warming at play. I might even bump us up like a 101, 102 type number for Friday. But you can see our cold front. All right, so there it is. And unlike the one from last weekend, although the timing is very similar, I think this one might actually come through. So this would be 10 p.m. Friday, and look at this. The front is already coming down to us. It could be in the 60s in the DFW area. It could be 40s and 50s over the Texas Panhandle. So we keep going, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. The time's up here, by the way. This is 4 a.m., 5, 6, 7, 8. And the model basically has the front already coming through. So if we switch over to the winds, you can see the wind shift and the cooler air has already arrived according to this model. Again, normally very reliable with cold fronts. And the last frame of this is only going to take us to 1 p.m. But at that point, the model has the front through 80s, 90s down to our south. It has us in the 60s and low 70s with some rain starting to develop across the hill country. So obviously, if you're a Longhorn fan and you're going to the game, it's 11 a.m. kickoff against San Jose State, I believe. Our forecast is quickly changing from, hey, it's looking like it's going to be hot with highs in the low to mid 90s to, hey, it could be cloudy and cool like in the 80s or cooler and maybe some light showers around. I know no one likes when the weather guy's talking about uncertainty, but I'll switch. So this is the longer range 12 kilometer NAM. Again, today's easy. It's going to be hot. Friday's easy. It's going to be hot. There's our cold front. So this goes out longer, but it's lower. It's a lower resolution model. So we went from 3 kilometers to 12 kilometers. But again, this one typically does well with these shallow cold air masses. All right, so we go into 7 a.m. and like the higher res data, it's got the front basically down to us. And it sets up this big gradient across our area where, yeah, maybe southeast of Austin, like Bastrop, Fayette County, it's in the 80s still. Maybe Austin. When I make a forecast today, we'll see. I mean, I'll probably put a high like in the 80s somewhere, but it's hard to ignore this right here where, you know, these reliable high-res models are keeping us in the 70s in the afternoon and maybe even cooler than that to our northwest in the hill country. And then in this case, if the front's through by Sunday morning, we're in the 60s, and then we're going to ramp up these rain chances through the day on Sunday. Maybe it's a cool rain through much of the day. And speaking of the rain, we'll switch over now and we'll go to the precipitation mode. So here's the composite reflectivity. Again, Saturday, early in the day, it looks like the better rain chance is still going to be to our north. I'm still, even with the front through, still leaning towards it being mainly dry in the Austin area for the game. Although sometimes what you can see when you get the shallow cold air coming through like this, particularly if it's a little cooler than maybe we're thinking right now, is you could get an overrunning pattern and maybe we've got like light drizzle or very light showers. But either way, Sunday is still looking like the better rain chance. So this NAM is picking up on that and is bringing a pocket of maybe, you know, some heavy rain into our area, especially by the afternoon on Sunday. So let me switch real quick. We'll go back over to the European model real quick, just so I can show you some of the longer range data. These are the rainfall totals. Real quick, we'll go back over the precip type, but kind of showing a similar thing where Saturday, especially late day, maybe we'll ramp up these rain chances. Then Sunday is kind of the day here. So here's 10 a.m. Sunday. Rain chances ramping up through the day, continuing into the afternoon. Here's 4 p.m. Sunday. 7 p.m. Sunday, 10, 1 a.m., lingering rain into early Monday, and then kind of fizzling and trending drier late day Monday. So this model, again, you know, they've been kind of flip-flopping back and forth, but You can see some of these rain chances here. It's got 1 to 2 inches plus over much of our K-View area. I think that's a little ambitious for right now. But we're just going to have to kind of see how this part of the forecast plays out. Okay, so with that, let's go back over to some of our long-range outlooks. Here's the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. So this is now the September 9th through September 13th, favoring, now as we get beyond this weekend into next week, actually favoring a little above average temperatures and actually favoring slightly drier than normal weather. Here are the numbers off the European model. Again, I think this 94 on Saturday is very suspect to me. I think the front's going to get here earlier now. And then we'll probably be 80s Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, Monday afternoon. This Euro keeps that going into Tuesday. That's when I get a little bit more uncertain. So 103 today, lower triple digits Friday. Saturday, the model blend is starting to pick up on this. Again, I expect it's probably going to be cooler than 90. By the afternoon on Saturday, highs will probably be in the 80s, if not cooler. Sunday and Monday. Sunday is going to have some risk for locally heavy rain and flooding. As of now, rain chance about 60%. So as of now, increasing rain chance, but keeping an eye on flood potential. Monday still looks cool, and then Tuesday into the middle of next week as we trend drier. Still, these numbers don't look like crazy hot, but back in the low mid 90s, that'd be a little closer to what is average for this time of the year. All right, so that was a lot of nerdy talk today, but I guess that's what these videos are for. Again, kind of an intricate forecast. It's going to be very hot today. Then the weekend forecast, it's a keep your head on a swivel type of forecast. And as somebody who's been forecasting these things here in Central Texas for a while now, I want to be transparent to tell you, this is the type of forecast that's going to change. But increasingly, starting Saturday, it's looking cooler, and then Sunday, wetter with some sort of a heavy rain risk this weekend. All right, we'll have more updates on the forecast coming through the next couple of days. Y'all have a good night or a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to y'all later.